Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well this evening. I hope you had a great weekend. So let's see who's on the stream tonight. We have Raven 1983 Witch, great to see you. JG, we have on as well, great to see you. We have Matthew, great to see you. Killer moderating once again, thanks for coming on and moderating. We have Buddy, we have Enzo the God, great to see you, Enzo. Maria, great to see you once again. Hope you're well tonight. Matthew, great to see you. Chatty Rat, great to have you on, Chatty. Lenan, great to have you on. Hope you're well tonight. Fact Not Fiction, great to see you. Hope you're well. Love the content, love the videos. Kathy, great to see you. Kathy, we had Chatty Rat before. Kathy, great to see you. Kathy Doyle, hope you're fine. We have, let me see. Rumen, great to see you. Nico, great to have you on. We also have Neil Wilson, great to see you. We have Richard Ager, great to see you. No relation to Roger Ager, I wonder. Not Roger. Is it the guy who does the YouTube channel, who has the YouTube videos on movies? Really good channel. We have Dano. Great to see you, Dano. Jonathan, great to see you. We also have FSM is the dog. FSM certainly is the dog. Who else have we got? Miss Grumpy Piggy. I love these names. We also have, let me see, Hedgehog Legs, great to have you on, Hedgehog. Hope you're fine tonight. Ishmael, great to see you. We also have Jasper, great to see you, Jasper. Vimster, great to see you. Antonio, Boris Johnson's hair. Van Man Talks, great to see you on Van Man Talks. I'm really a big fan of your videos. I don't know how you managed to I don't know how you managed to drive and comment on Nigel Farage, for example, at the same time. You're extremely how do you say, ambidextrous or multitasking, great at multitasking, so well done. Love the content as well. CGM, where am I going? CGM, great to see you, CGM. Hope you're well. Kendra, great to have you on. And we're up to 229 viewers, and we haven't even begun yet. That's amazing. That's great. The moderators are going to post a link to Graham. Graham has a GoFundMe at the moment to help with the work happening on Ginger Island. So do check out the link. The moderators will post it in the chat. So if you can help out, try and help out. The poor guys are spending 6 weeks together. I don't know how Graham is going to no Graham and All Shorts are great, and I think they're going to get on like a house on fire. Hopefully the house doesn't go on fire. No, I think they're going to do a great job, and the project that they have in mind in the long term is to create an eco village there, an eco resort where people can go and understand the value of conserving water and energy. It's an amazing project, so if you can help out, that's great. Rob Ager film channel is excellent, yes, says Jonathan. I agree. I loved his completely off topic now, but I loved his The Shining content. It's really is wonderful, really. Antonio, hi from Croydon, great to see you. Night Raven, hope you're well. These early starts are throwing me, and not just you. It takes me a bit of, I've been having some trouble adjusting. I normally would have the live stream at 9:30 Central European time. 10:30 Central European time. So at 9 o'clock for me, or 8 p.m. British summer time, is a big difference. It's an hour and a half earlier. So, but anyway, let's jump in. Welcome to the stream, everyone. And if you're new, remember to smash the like button as you enter. You can support the channel by becoming a patron if you want. You can also support the channel by sending a super chat, and I'll read it out on the stream tonight. So let's jump in. Of course, Boris Johnson and Brexit and energy and all this good stuff. So the first news article here is Johnson's claim Dutch PM offered to mediate in Brexit round not true, says sources. Okay, I don't think there's even need to go into this article. Boris Johnson told a lie. Anyone surprised? I'm not surprised. And if you're surprised, then you haven't been paying attention. You know, just think about it for a moment. Why would the Dutch Prime Minister get involved in a row between the European Union and the UK? To what end? To try and mitigate the damage of Brexit? Well, it could be argued that the Dutch are doing pretty well out of Brexit. Look at the warehousing industry in the Netherlands is benefiting hugely from Brexit. Financial services have been transferred to the Netherlands as well. So the Dutch are actually doing quite well out of Brexit. They're quite happy that Brexit, in a sense, has taken place. So why would they help Boris Johnson? Look, I understand. The Dutch have mediated in the past between member states. Between France and Germany, or France and Italy. It's good to have one country within the European Union mediate, try to be the peace broker when there's a disagreement. But they wouldn't mediate between the UK and the EU because they're within the EU. You would need someone neutral, maybe the United States or Japan or Australia maybe. But you wouldn't have the likes of the Netherlands getting involved. And what would be the benefit for the Netherlands in helping out Boris Johnson? So maybe somebody said something to Johnson and he said, yeah, that's the Dutch are going to help me. Or he just pulled it out of his behind, which is probably more likely. We didn't intervene. Intervene to what ends? I don't understand, Maria. How would it benefit the Netherlands? I don't see it benefiting in any way. Of course, benefiting isn't always the goal here, but between the EU and the UK, it wouldn't make any sense. Disgusting creatures. Tory rats. Let me read some more of your comments. Boris is a liar. Surprised Pikachu face. I think the US and Australia are now persona non grata. Yes, to a certain extent. Well, particularly in France. Not so much, I don't think, in the EU, but certainly in France. And Nicholas, thank you so much for that super chat. The Dutch don't have a government currently today. Today was budget day, and they do not care about this at all. No, I think Boris Johnson and Brexit is the least on their mind. The last thing on their mind, I should say. So thanks very much for that super chat, Nicholas. But he's human. Okay. Free the English from British rules is Tic Tac. I don't know either, Max. No, I don't know why why was Boris Johnson doing this? I think it's maybe another attempt to distract. Look, there's an ongoing gas crisis at the moment, energy crisis, and he needs something to distract. He needs something to, wave in front of the public. Sorry if you're hearing some background noise. My neighbor upstairs who's moving furniture around. Wurzel Johnson needs a pick and shovel to do a good day's work. Spoon-fed creature. he went to Eton, and when he was at Eton, he was described as entitled. It's pretty bad if your parents receive a letter from Eton saying, your kid is pretty entitled. So Boris Johnson, he's not the type of person who's done a decent day's work in his life. I think he should be put on universal credit for a while to understand the real problems people are going through at the moment. The Dutch don't have a government, but the Belgians do. Who would have thunk? Why don't the Brits just put their problems in the shelves? Then they wouldn't be empty. Just put problems on the shelves. Then there would be a heavy goods vehicle driver shortage. Put that on the shelf. In that regard, I'd love to speak to Van Man and maybe Davy from Scotland about the impact of the heavy goods vehicle driver shortage. There's also another person I'm planning to do a video with, so I'd like to talk about those things. Anyway, let's move on. I think it's more becomes the propaganda that they are next to leave EU. Why are Italian energy prices as high as the UK? I'm not familiar with the prices in Italy being as high as the UK. I haven't checked that. I see Boris Johnson said he got 6 children. Well, you've actually jumped the gun here, because this is the next story. I just want to touch on it. Boris Johnson admits he has 6 children. Oh my god. Okay. I know this is not real news. I thought it was 16, but it's 6. So I'm a little bit disappointed. Boris Johnson has admitted for the first time that he has 6 children, claiming in an interview on US television that he changes a lot of nappies. Well, because Boris Johnson is a liar, then he probably doesn't have 6 children. He has maybe more. The Prime Minister has previously tended to avoid questions about his notorious complex family life. He has been divorced twice and conceived a daughter during an extramarital relationship. But when an NBC interview put to him that he had 6 children, he replied yes. Once again, Boris Johnson probably has more than that. If he says, yes, I have 6 children, then obviously he has more or less, or definitely not 6. Johnson has a 1-year-old child, Wilfred, with his wife, Carrie Johnson. He said it was fantastic. Okay, to have children in number 10, claiming, I change a lot of nappies. The couple are now expecting another baby. Because he can't afford a nanny. Johnson has 4 adult children with his second wife, Maria Wheeler, and his daughter from an extramarital relationship. It has been reported that Johnson has could have conceived another child or children beyond those known about, but he has refused to discuss this. There we go. You know, when he says I'm not going to talk about it, means yes, there are others. He's like, Robert Baratheon or something. Ahead of the 2019 general election, Johnson was openly asked about this during a phone call on LBC, in which he was challenged by a caller about an article he wrote in 1995 in which he blamed single mothers for producing generations of ill-raised, ignorant, aggressive and illegitimate children. After the exchange, host Nick Ferrari pressed Johnson on how many children he had. I think that people want to hear what I think what people want to hear is what plans we have, Johnson replied. I love my children very much, all of them, but they are not standing in this election and I'm not therefore going to comment. Asked if he was fully and wholly involved in their lives, Johnson again refused to comment, saying, I'm not going to put them on the pitch in this election campaign. Of course he's not involved in their lives. He doesn't care about these people, probably. He doesn't care about these children. Boris Johnson cares about one child, Boris Johnson. Yes, he probably claimed that he cares about his latest child, but look, I have my doubts. Boris Johnson just cares about Boris Johnson. The pair are expected. In his NBC interview on Tuesday, the Prime Minister referred to the US President Joe Biden, whom he will meet in the White House later in the day, as a breath of fresh air. The pair are expected to discuss issues including this summer's botched withdrawal from Afghanistan and the prospects for a successful outcome of the COP26 climate summit in November. In his NBC interview, Johnson denied that he had been snubbed by Biden many times during the crisis. I don't discuss my calls with other leaders, but to the best of my recollection, we talked very frankly about the whole thing. Asked if he agreed with Biden's decision to set and stick to a date for withdrawal of US troops from Afghanistan, he said America has been there for 20 years, and it's a respectable argument to say enough is enough, adding, we could have done things differently, perhaps we could. Okay, so I love I love my children, all 60 of them. David, thank you so much. David Faulkner, thank you so much for that super chat. A few European countries are benefiting from the demise of British business. A significant, thank you so much for that super chat once again. Yes, a significant number of countries. You know, we are seeing Germany benefit. We're seeing the Republic of Ireland benefit. We're seeing the Netherlands, France to a certain extent. You know, the Brexiteers said that Brexit would create jobs. It would create it would attract investment. Yes, they were right. It did, just not in the UK. You know, wouldn't you think we would be hearing stories? That's what the Brexiteers were trying to convince the public of. You know, as soon as we leave, we'll be hearing about all these businesses that are moving to the UK. Now, my question is, did they actually believe that? Did Nigel Farage truly believe that Brexit would result in some sort of sunlit uplands? I don't know about Boris Johnson, because Boris Johnson is a shape-shifting creep. But the real Brexiteers, Brexit hardman Steve Baker, did he truly believe that it would attract investment? That there would be countries around the world climbing over each other to sign trade deals with the UK? But now they are, probably, in a sense, because they know that the UK will just sign off to anything. Apart from the United States. Shame he didn't love the many mothers. Very good point, Kate. I've asked before. It's not off topic. It is off topic. Sorry. Now, can you please explain to me why Johnson is so against the implementation of the Northern Ireland Protocol? Does it hurt him and his party? No, I don't believe that he's against it. I just see I think he uses it as a distraction. I think Boris Johnson is not against implementing the protocol, because if he was, he wouldn't implement it. Well, not in the sense that he wouldn't implement it. He would tear it up. He would say, we're not going ahead with it. I think what they're trying to do is twofold. First is they're not carrying out the checks, and they're not putting in the infrastructure for two reasons. One is because they're lazy. The Tories don't like to be they don't like investing money in things that don't return money to their donors. So building infrastructure in Northern Ireland to carry out checks doesn't really help their donors. So they're not motivated to do that. But the other point about this is that I think they try to use it as a tool from time to time to convince the public that they're serious, that they're standing up to the European Union. So if they carry out all the checks, if they do everything, then they can't really come back after and say, we stood up to the European Union. No, you did what you were supposed to do. So I think they want to maintain this threat always in reserve. We're going to invoke Article 16. We're going to tear up the withdrawal agreement. We're going to renegotiate. And it's just really saber rattling. Because if they were really serious about tearing it up, invoking Article 16, they would have done it already. But they don't really have a leg to stand on here. So I believe that if Boris Johnson really wanted to tear up the withdrawal agreement or tear up the Northern Ireland Protocol, he would have done it already. But he's not doing it for two reasons. One is because they're lazy, and the other is because it's they can use it later on down the road. But also there's the problem of, if you do actually tear it up, you need to provide some alternative. What is the alternative to the Northern Ireland Protocol? There is no alternative. If you want to renegotiate it, yeah, perhaps it's possible to renegotiate, but you'd have to renegotiate the whole withdrawal agreement. And the EU would have to agree to renegotiate it, and the EU is not at that stage. Maybe they would be at some stage in the future, but there'd have to be some concession. Because think about it, if you have an agreement with someone and you say, look, this agreement isn't working out for me, and the other side say, well, it is for us, then you have to give them something extra in order for them to renegotiate it. Because if it's working for them, why would they decide, okay, let's renegotiate it? Doesn't make any sense. You can apply that to pretty much anything. what was the command to lick the lick button? CANZUK wouldn't be a replacement for the EU in the slightest for the UK. No, CANZUK doesn't. CANZUK is this attempt by Brexiteers to say, look, we can have our own EU without rules and regulations. Okay, well, the problem with that is that you would have rules and regulations within CANZUK if CANZUK was an actual agreement. It's an attempt at resurrecting the empire in a way. But even if they could have some sort of agreements and everyone was happy within CANZUK, the problem is that most trade that the UK has is with its neighbours. Most trade Canada has is with its neighbours, the United States. Same with Australia, New Zealand, China, Asia. That's where most of the trade is for those respective countries. So trying to it would, for example, it would be insane for Australia to say we're going to stop trading with Asia and we're going to start trading with Russia instead. It wouldn't make any sense from an economic point of view. Maybe there are some benefits from this CANZUK, but it's not going to replace trade with the European Union. It's not designed to do that. It's just an agreement between certain countries. Let's work together on some things, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's not going to replace. Oh, Max, you missed 2 super chats. Let me go back up. What did I miss? I didn't receive the notification. Apologies. European countries are benefiting? No, I don't think I missed any super chats. Unless there's a problem with the chat. No, don't tell me there's a problem with the chat. Please tell me if I missed the super chats, because my chat isn't showing anything. One from David and one from Nicholas, and that's all. Not sure what happened there. Okay. Let's move on. Okay, let me just check. No, okay. Yes, I read them out. Maybe Killer wasn't listening. I said thanks to David and Nicholas. Thanks so much, David and Nicholas, for the super chats. Oh, I'm not sure what's going on there. Okay, let's go on. Staying with Brexit, of course, it says here watercress and Welsh lamb breed added to UK protection list. That's some good news. Yes, good news, isn't it? Well, not really, because products joined post-Brexit scheme created to protect British foods, which is not recognised by the EU. So it says here, UK has added a breed of Welsh lamb and watercress to its new... Nicholas, thanks so much for that super chat. Test to prove okay. Keep up the... Thanks so much for that. Sorry that you had to send a super chat for that, but I did see your... Go on. Okay, thanks for that super chat, Nicholas. Regan Elite, go for a GoFundMe for Mr. and Mrs. Max to Ginger Island when it's all fixed up. Yay! Thank you so much, Regan Elite. Thanks so much to Nicholas as well. Okay, now the notification is coming through. There's a little bit of a delay. Watercress also makes me feel sick. So it goes on to say, newly created food category scheme set up to protect regional British foods after the UK departed from the European scheme post-Brexit. Other famous British products include such as Melton Bowie pork pies, Cornish pasties, and Wensleydale cheese were protected from imitation under the EU scheme, which offered global recognition. So this is another case of I don't. This is another case of yeah, we're going to have our own standard, but it's not recognized worldwide. But if it's not recognized worldwide, then it's not really a standard to protect these goods. The European one, DOP, I think it's called, or something similar, is recognized worldwide. So, for example, Parmesan cheese is, or Prosecco wine. I know the Italian ones. So these are protected. So if you try to produce them, copies of them abroad, the European Union or someone will be knocking on your door because they are protected. And they're also protected from importation. So they, for example, and this is a problem that I highlighted in one of the videos recently, where you can't import Parmesan cheese into the European Union because it's produced within the European Union. I think this is the reason. So if there are products that contain Parmesan cheese in the UK for export, you probably need some sort of certificate to go along with it. Boris Johnson's 220-second love child. Max may be my daddy. I'm sorry. This is insane. Yeah, I will. I'll look after you, okay? Your real papa doesn't give a crap about you, it seems. First Bojo wants to know how much is in your trust fund. How many children does he have? This is insane. No. 222nd. How does he get about? I don't know. He's one in every, not in every port, but in every bloody village in the country. Okay, let's continue. The UK chose to depart the scheme post-Brexit to create its own independent geographic indication scheme, which is not recognised in the EU. So yes, the UK would say we can have our own Cornish pasties, and they would be protected even if, well, they're protected in the UK. They're not protected outside the UK, it seems. On Monday, Boris Johnson announced the Cambrian Mountains lamb and watercress, which had been added to the geographical indicator scheme. Since its launch, 91 British products have been added to the independent GI scheme, 81 agricultural products, 5 wines and 5 spirits. Watercress has been added because of its production methods associated with steady flowing water, which DEFRA said deserves special status because it remained unaltered by selection and breeding, meaning that its unique flavour has remained largely unchanged for generations. Hope that's not water that includes raw sewage. The protected status means only specific plants grown in flowing water can bear the name of watercress when commercially sold in Great Britain. However, the peppery salad leaf is also grown in other countries, including the US and Spain, raising questions about the robustness of any protections and the new categorization offers. Now, the point about this is, of course, it's just another attempt by the Brexiteer government to look like they're doing something. Look, we're protecting British products in Britain, but not on the world stage. It also means that because the UK is outside the international scheme, European products can be produced in the UK using the European name, and there's no problem with that. But UK products are not going to be protected outside. So there's no real benefit to anyone here. Who's benefiting from this? No one, really, apart from Brexiteers, because they're saying, look, we're doing something. See, we couldn't have done this outside. We couldn't have done this unless we had Brexited. But you're actually getting something worse here, because at least if you were in the European one, your products would be recognized worldwide and they would be protected worldwide. So you're replacing something good with something worse. And for what? For propaganda purposes. Poppery Standard Leaf is UK only. Did Boris get rid of the Fixed Term Parliament Act? Because once the universal credit cut and leaky prices hit, I think the Tories will have their backs against the wall. Labour should be forcing for a general election. Unfortunately, at the moment, Labour are nowhere in a position to win. They would need to form a coalition, and I'm not sure they're going to get even enough seats there. So it's still the problem for the Tories is the longer it's left, the worse it is for them. So I don't know if it'd be a good idea for Labour to call for a general election at the moment. It would be better to wait as long as possible. Most Brexiteers are busy now spreading COVID misinformation. Yeah, I think that's something I've never really understood, or maybe I should understand it better. Why this Venn diagram of Brexiteers, COVIDiots, and Trump supporters? You know, there's a lot of crossover there. Why? Is it people who are, anti-intellectual? They hate information. They prefer simple, very simple narratives. Immigrants bad, Union Jack good. This type of mentality. Wait, what are the Brexit benefits again? Asking, what do Labour stand for? It's mathematically impossible unless Tories vote for it too. Could the UK have bought more gas more cheaply if still in the EU, i.e. bulk buying? Yeah, so it would have been part of the European common, I don't remember the term, but there's a way that if it had been part of the European common, what is it, a single market, I think it was, for the single energy market or something like that, they would have been able to benefit from bulk buying in a sense, or at least from better negotiating. So they would have been able to negotiate as a bloc and not as an individual country. So they would have been able to get better prices. But they didn't want that. They all believe lies and lack critical thinking skills. Labour stand for standing behind Tories, supporting Tories when it suits. Which I'm going to get to in a moment about Keir Starmer, which is interesting. Anyway, let's move on. So in regards to Brexit, let me just maximize this so you can see a bit better. This is about, of course, there's a lack of CO2 at the moment, which is needed for packaging, which is needed for in farming as well. And this CO2 is produced as a byproduct of fertilizer, which is a problem because the fertilizer is not being produced. Why? Well, one of the reasons it's not being produced is because farmers next year, farmers normally buy their, or the farming industry, the agricultural industry, buy their fertilizer in advance, and they have decided next year they're not going to plant as many fruit and vegetable as they did this year, because they're afraid they won't be able to sell it, because they won't be able to pick it, because there aren't workers available. So they've decided we're not going to buy fertilizer. So if you're not buying fertilizer, it's not going to be produced. If it's not going to be produced, you're not going to have this byproduct of CO2. I don't know if that's the full story, but it seems to fit the narrative.
Okay, so without the CO2 then, how long will this last on the shelf?
So fresh meat without CO2 has only got a 3 or 4 day shelf life. So by the time that's been packed on day 1, distributed to depot day 2, into a retail store on day 3, you're looking at not a lot of shelf life left.
So it's vitally important for keeping fresh meat, well, fresh. And without any more carbon dioxide, this production line and countless others will stop within 2 weeks. Vitally important. And yet 60% of the UK supply comes from just one firm.
At CF Industries, we've always answered the call for progress.
Today, the call to CF Industries wasn't for progress, but production, and it came from the government. The deal: they will restart their 2 factories producing CO2. The government will provide temporary financial support. No details as yet.
So, once again, another case of you have the government bailing out companies because of Brexit. This is the consequence of Brexit, okay? So the taxpayer is bailing out businesses because of Brexit. Wasn't Brexit supposed to pay for itself? Wasn't it supposed to be this, we're going to have so much money, we're going to have so much investment, we're going to have so much money, so much investment, we're not going to know what we're going to do with it. We're going to create so many jobs. It's going to be wonderful, sunlit uplands, a bright new future. And you've had a couple of months ago, the government not bailing out, but bribing basically Nissan to stay in the country. And now you have this conglomerate or corporation, CF, being paid to produce CO2. It says it's no longer viable for us to do this because it's too expensive. We're going to stop production of it. And the government said, no, we need it, so here's some money. FSM is the dog. I'm glad I don't eat meat. Well, it's actually, unfortunately, it's also affecting non-meat products as well. Things like salads and stuff, because they actually have to be, there's some CO2 put inside the packaging there to keep those things fresh as well. Thanks for that super chat. The political one, that's my socialism. Yeah, the Conservatives, don't vote for the Labour Party. They're just going to pour taxpayer money into private companies, or they're going to nationalise industry. They're going to, invoke socialism, communism even. And what is the government doing? They're taking taxpayer money and handing it over to private companies in order for them to operate. Just imagine if the shoe was on the other foot here and it was the Labour Party that were in charge. Thanks very much, the political one. It was the Labour Party that was in charge. And we had this disaster. What do you think the Tories would be saying? How dare you take taxpayer money and give it to private companies? This is socialism. This is communism. You're nationalising these industries by giving them money. Valerio, thank you so much for that super chat. Do you think I'm going to starve on Christmas here in the UK? Look, I don't think anyone's going to starve, but a lot of products are probably not going to be available. Turkeys, for example, will be in short supply. Maybe even mince pies are going to be in short supply. But generally, it's going to be things that need to be vacuum packed, or things that need CO2 to be. There's talk about Coca-Cola, soft drinks shortage, beer shortage, because beer needs carbon dioxide, unless it's not all beers, but certain beers need carbon dioxide. Soft drinks generally need, unless you want to drink flat Coca-Cola, which isn't very nice. Maybe it'll start a new trend. It'd be Brexit cola. It's no gas, just dark liquid. and don't worry about where the water comes from. At what stage I would like to hear from, and I've been trying to reach out to Brexiteers for a conversation. I'd love to host a Brexiteer and talk to them about this, understand, are these do you see these as problems? Of course, they're going to say this is nothing to do with Brexit. It's got to do with the pandemic. It's got to do with the pingdemic. It's got to do with global collapse in prices, a global collapse in supplies or whatever. So they'll always say it's nothing to do with Brexit. I like flat Coke, great hangover cure. I can think of more palatable hangover cures than that. Brexit cola sounds like it would taste very bitter. just add some salt. I'm considering starting a drop a turkey by drone business in the UK for Christmas, hoping Priti Patel doesn't start a hovercraft force to break it down. Oh my god.
But a deal hammered out over 3 days of talks.
So I'm really, really pleased that that's happened. It would have been horrendous if it hadn't have happened. So that is really good news, and I'm pleased to hear that.
Is there a but coming?
But we have to question why we're reliant so much on just 2 factories.
A lack of CO2 is a symptom, though, not the cause of a supply-side squeeze facing the nation. At its root, a global gas shortage and surging post-COVID demand.
Irman, thank you so much for that super chat. Don't worry about turkeys. They've already fought for Christmas, Max. Max, each to their own hangover cure. What? I was reacting to Johnson having 6 kids and beyond. So I think I've jumped the gun there. I don't drink beer and pop anyway, Matt.
Financials in free fall. 5 British energy firms have gone bust in recent weeks. Ruin for them, uncertainty for their 700,000 customers who face switches to new gas and electricity providers on new, probably more expensive rates.
You know, many of the smaller producers were able to buy energy in bulk and then sell it off much cheaper because they're smaller companies. They have fewer overheads. That's gone now. A lot of these smaller companies have gone bust. They haven't been able to sell the energy at a lower rate. And now what's going to happen is people who had benefited before from lower prices are now going to pay a higher rate through no fault of their own.
Whenever energy companies take on new customers, there are costs associated, switching sites, charge commissions and so on. So there's always the kind of need to think about the cost of a new customer. In the case of supplier of last resort, Ofgem runs a competitive auction process, and Ofgem chooses the company that asks for the least money.
With bills set to rise no matter the supplier and yet more energy firms on the brink of survival, millions of customers are facing a cost of living crunch.
I try to use my microwave more than cooking now because the gas is just too much.
I think it's dreadful because everything's going up. All your food's going up, your clothing's going up, your gas and electric's going up.
I would love if the journalist asked these people, did you vote for Boris Johnson in 2019? Did you vote for Brexit? It's not to rub salt on the wounds, but it's to understand, yes, I did. Okay, do you regret that vote? Because if you say, yes, I regret that vote, then my next question is, are you going to vote for him next time? Because if you answer no, or no, I'm not, then good. If you say, yes, I am, then don't complain about the prices. Brian Jelly, thank you so much for that super chat. Yay, thank you so much. Very kind of you. No comment, but thanks very much. That's somebody wrote, Farage, where is it? Farage is a gas bag. Can't he help? Yeah, Farage is full of gas. It needs to be compressed. Voted for it, deal with it.
But income's not.
Lots of people in work, in well-paid jobs, can absorb these fluctuations in price.
Like MPs. MPs can absorb this fluctuation in price. Wait a minute. Aren't MPs able to claim massive expenses? So I don't know if heating bills are probably included in the expenses they can claim. So MPs are going to be completely protected from this. The general public some members of the general public will be able to absorb, as he says, but millions of people will not. At the same time, you bastards are cutting universal credit. So you're taking money from people who are in a desperate situation, and then you're turning around and saying, yeah, we're going to increase prices of fuel. I'm sorry. But don't worry, it's still quite warm. Hopefully it stays like that until next spring. I blame Boris. He was the British gas firm and Bristol. I pressed some buttons and buggered everything up. Do you realise this is clashing with Graham Hughes' Ginger? No, Ginger Island. I'm sorry, I didn't know it was, because he has live streams all the time, so I didn't know this was clashing with him. Apologies, Graham. But maybe this is Boris Johnson's fault, because he was at British Gas. Thanks, Regan Elite. He was at British Gas the other day. We saw him in his uniform. And what the hell was he doing at British Gas? British Gas is a private company. It's not a public company, as far as I know. I think it was privatized some years ago. Is it because it's British and then he can use it as some sort of propaganda tool? See, British Gas, Brexit. Is that it? Is it that desperate? Is he that desperate? Let's hope this global warming thing works. Farage gas should be burned on swords. Oh my god. The powers that be will be cushioned from the effects of this, and the poor will be paying for for those cushions. Very good point. Sorry, I'm still laughing at what we were saying before about Nigel Farage. I'm sure the new Education Secretary Nadim Zawari will be able to heat the horse stables at the taxpayers' expense. I'm pretty sure about that. I remember there was a story some years ago of the mayor of Moscow, I think it was, where there were homeless people on the streets of Moscow, and he had, wait to hear this, a heated driveway, because he didn't want to slip as he was coming out to get into his car. A heated driveway while there were homeless people. I hope Boris Johnson doesn't hear this, or he might be asking for a heated driveway at number 10.
But it's vulnerable people, elderly people, that I think are really exposed, and that's why we've always been very focused on them, particularly with regard to energy prices. That's why we introduced the cap in the first place. That's why we've got the warm home discount.
But you can have a cap, but if you're cutting universal credit or you're increasing national insurance, I know national insurance doesn't affect the elderly. Most of them are on pensions. But this is going to affect many people. Universal credit cut, national insurance increase. The national insurance increase isn't happening immediately, but this is something that's going to happen over the next number of years, and it's going to affect many people. But this universal credit cut is going to happen at the end of this month, and there's no sign of the Tories actually doing a U-turn here. A U-turn that's necessary.
Help is on its way, says the government, but as yet no deal has been struck between them, the energy companies and the regulator Ofgem for just how it will work in practice.
The energy companies have the British government over a barrel here, because they could demand pretty much anything and the government would say okay. Because remember, it's not Boris Johnson's money, it's not Jacob Rees-Mogg's money, it's not Rishi Sunak's cash. It's taxpayer money. So if the private companies say, yeah, give us X amount of money, so it'd be probably a case of, the government say, write the number on this piece of paper and we'll send it to you as soon as possible.
The only certainty, bills, and lots of them, are rising.
We've had electricity price increases. Our electricity for running the business here, $5,000 a month, is going up to $8,500, 50% increase. That has got to be absorbed by us as a business. How can we absorb that? We have to pass that on. So food inflation over the next year is going to be chronic because energy costs have gone up so high.
So today's carbon dioxide crisis has been averted, but no one's breathing easy just yet. Next month, 15 million households will see energy prices go up by around £178, then settle in, because come April, they're likely to rise once again.
Let me read some more of your comments, guys. They'll probably U-turn and be proclaimed heroes. What has shocked me most, the worst enemy this country is facing is its own people. Haven't they broken promises too on the triple lock? Yes. You, Marcus, and Graham need together to stop these broadcasting clashes. We need to meet together, yes. Don't panic, Boris will fix it. Have a little, lot of faith. National insurance is only paid by working people. Do you think that the Labour Party approach to the new to held negotiations with approach to the held negotiations with the European Union as an opposition party a brilliant move, or an invitation for the Tories to fully discredit? Look, any talks with the European Union, I think it's going to benefit the Labour Party if they're speaking with members of other countries. I think it raises their profile, and it shows that they're interested in fixing problems. And I think they need to present themselves as fixers. I've said this before. They have to say, Brexit is the problem, here is the fix. Boris Johnson is the problem, we're going to resolve it. You can't get your goods through, rejoining the single market will fix that. We're going to rejoin the single market and the customs union. Maybe not talk about rejoining the European Union at this stage, but they need to provide solutions. Just criticizing the government isn't enough. You need to say, this is what we're going to do. The House of Commons, you don't have to say what you're going to do, but to the public, to business, you need to tell them, this is what we're going to do. Just one more thing on Brexit before we just take a little break, because we're about halfway through the stream. Just want to show you this. Not very good news for Boris Johnson and his attempt to have a post-Brexit trade deal with the United States. It says here, Biden has a lot of fish to fry. Prime Minister plays down prospect of US-UK trade deal breakthrough. So the Prime Minister's latest comments about the potential trade pact between the two countries are in stark contrast to his remarks 4 years ago when he was Foreign Secretary. My God, when Boris Johnson was Foreign Secretary. Back in 2017, when Donald Trump was president, Mr. Johnson said the UK would be first in line for an agreement. You would think first in line for an agreement, it didn't happen. It didn't happen back, when Trump was in charge. Barack Obama said back, and we're going to get to that in a moment. Barack Obama said that the UK will be at the back of the queue if they decided to leave the European Union. Back in it said would be first in line. The remark was seen as a pointed rebuke of Barack Obama after the then president said in the run-up to the 2016 Brexit referendum that Britain would be at the back of the queue for a trade deal if it voted to leave the EU. So who was right here? Boris Johnson or Barack Obama? But speaking speaking as he prepared for his first White House meeting with Mr. Biden, the Prime Minister suggested the President has more pressing issues to contend with. On the free trade agreement, the reality is that Joe has a lot of fish to fry, Mr. Johnson told reporters traveling with him to the US on RAF Voyager. Let me just close these videos. Sorry. He's got a huge infrastructure package. He's got a Build Back Better package. Build Back Better. Where did we hear that before? We want to do it, and we want to be a good free trade agreement, a great free trade agreement. The Prime Minister, who is expected to press Mr. Biden to get the talks going when they meet in the Oval Office, added that he would, wait to hear this, much rather get a deal that really works for the UK than get a quick deal. A quick deal, not a good. He would prefer a good deal, not a quick deal. So why the hell have you been signing quick deals, and why the hell have you been promoting the idea that you have been signing the fastest trade deals in history? The quickest. We've signed so many trade deals so quickly after we left the European Union, and now it's slow and steady is better than quick and dirty. Hey Davey, great to see you on the stream. I have to meet up with Davey, of course, David, to talk about Scotland and the heavy goods vehicle driver shortage. I have to get back to you, Dave. You contacted me and I have to get back to you on a date. The Prime Minister, he also said, and he said there had been some recent progress in a number of areas already, with British beef back in the USA, no more tariffs on whiskey, and the Airbus-Boeing issue solved. This is more about the EU, a thawing of relations between the EU and the US. Mr. Johnson will also meet the Vice President Kamala Harris when he is in Washington. He will travel by train from New York, where he is attending the UN General Assembly. There was a boost for the Prime Minister ahead of his meeting with the President when the US announced that it would be dropping its ban on travellers arriving from the UK and EU in November. Well, that makes sense because we have such high rates of vaccinated citizens, so it makes sense that the US would drop this ban. Makes no sense to ban, when there are certain states in the United States where there are problems with the vaccine rollout, not because there aren't sufficient vaccines, it's because there's insufficient take-up. Did I miss the comedy video? You did not, because it's happening right now. So we'll just break for a moment and we'll come back after this with more serious stuff. So here is our comedy moment, so to relax and tone down the rhetoric.
Oh, bother. Not this again. Yeah, this again. For the umpteenth time, can you please give me back the things you stole from me? Wow, no hi, how are you or anything? Firstly, I didn't steal them, did I? I acquired them. Alright, how? By burning your house down and taking them without your consent. Yeah, I know, but if you don't mind me saying, it's a little bit provocative to call that quote-unquote theft. Yeah, words matter, friend. And anyway, that was a long time ago. Back then, I just didn't realise that you were a human being with rights, values and feelings like me. And that's my bad. But I'm a different person now. Well, you could show that by giving me my stuff back. Huh? How about that? You know how much these things mean to me. They're like my diaries. Well, I have given you some stuff back. You held on to most of it. Incorrect. I actually sold a lot of it on to the neighbours. You might be better off hounding them, buddy. No need, because they've mostly agreed to give the stuff back. Almost everyone. Except you. Marxists. Give me my shit! I can't. Why not? Because, and I'm actually looking out for you here, pal. I don't trust you to look after them properly. I mean, someone could just come and steal them from you. I just think they're safer here where people can come and see them in this lovely display. I think they illustrate our interconnectedness, yeah, and serve as a sobering lesson from our regrettable and complicated past. What's the lesson? Crime pays? And you know what else? How's about this for an olive branch, friend? How about I lend them to you if you pinky promise to give them back? Hold on. You're offering to loan me my own belongings that you stole from me. Are you delighted? Oh, f***. Can you just say I'm gone out?
Oh my god, very good. So, moving on from serious to comedy to what is this? So, Jennifer Arcuri, whatever way you pronounce her name, says her relationship with Boris Johnson had no bearing on business. American tech entrepreneur Jennifer Arcuri said that her relationship with Boris Johnson had no bearing on her business pursuits. Earlier in the year, Miss Arcuri claimed to have been involved in an intimate relationship with Boris Johnson. How is that possible? I don't want to know. Mental images. Between 2012 and 2016, during which time he was mayor of London. The revelation led to increased scrutiny of Ms. Akuri's presence on at least 3 GLA overseas trade missions, during which time, as City Hall worked to establish whether Mr. Johnson had given her preferential treatment or access. Miss Akuri, or whatever the hell way you pronounce this name, on Tuesday gave evidence to the GLA Oversight Committee, the London Assembly body responsible for scrutinising the conduct of GLA members, where she said that it was completely false to suggest that she had been officially invited on the trips at the behest of Mr. Johnson. She also denied ever asking the Mayor of London to attend any overseas visits. Speaking at City Hall, Ms. Arcuri said she had only officially attended one trade mission as a delegate to Malaysia in September 2014. Ms. Arcuri explained that she had met with the organisers of a mission prior to the trip to put forward a case for why she should attend, but rumours of her relationship with Boris Johnson circled in the press. Ms. Arcuri said she had doubts about attending as she did not want to cast a dark, gloomy cloud on the event. The businesswoman said her relationship with Boris Johnson was never disclosed when the Greater London Authority, as people kind of assumed they wanted what they wanted. She said people knew there was an interest from Boris Johnson in me. There was never a time when I felt I had to say anything. People kind of assumed that they wanted what they wanted. My relationship with the mayor had no real bearing on the complete pursuit of London. During Tuesday's session, Ms. Arcuri denied that she had officially was invited to 2 other trade missions in New York and Tel Aviv. Regarding the trip to New York, Ms. Arcuri said she was already in the city and wanted to go to some events with London friends. Yes. Oh my God. So, of course, what is the story here? Boris Johnson took her on trade, took her to trade events, took her as in an official, probably in an official sense. But this is Boris Johnson. This is what we expect from Boris Johnson. He has he's bit on the side, and he wants to show off, and he takes her around in an official way. And of course, if she's taken along in an official capacity, he probably doesn't have to pay for. She doesn't have to pay for that. And of course, what is she getting in return? Probably some contracts. Probably some. How do you say yes indeed in Spanish? Yeah, Jenny's a dirty. Jennifer Arcuri's a trade mission with Boris in the missionary position. He just got married, so he must be looking for a new mistress by now. Boris likes his blondes. She probably thought she was sleeping with Trump. Both hideous, yes. Please, no more suggestions of what Bob's got up to. Jennifer, please. It's too disturbing. The puppy. Oh my God, yes. No, the comments are fantastic. I wonder how many keys they shared. I'm not sure what that means. What is she getting in return? Really, you need to ask. Great British crabs. Horrible. Oh, she was getting some. Right. Think we can go post watershed. We have a word for people like her down in these parts. Bloody slag. Look, she understood that Boris Johnson had a weakness, and she was willing to exploit that weakness. It seems, allegedly. And the Tories have a weakness for for power, and donors understand this weakness, and they understand that they can manipulate that by giving them money. Boris Johnson's mistress understood that she could manipulate him by giving him something other than money. And what did she get in return? Contracts, probably, trips around the world for free, the ability to expand her network, probably. She's a businesswoman, so she wants to be able to fly around the world, meet new people. And having the mayor of London vouch for you was something substantial. Now, of course, I don't think Boris Johnson will be worth his worth a vouch today, but at the time, I'm a businesswoman. I have close contacts with the mayor of London, very close contacts, very, very close, and that can benefit you. You can say, it can open a lot of doors. Johan, thank you so much for that super chat. Can understand this story in France, but not in the UK. Yes, it would be a typical story in France. It would be normal in France, she got a key swab party with the ghost, possibly. Oh Christ, blind me! No, it's just sickening. I think the penny will drop when the British people regard Brexit, and will really drop at Christmas. Now, people have asked me, when do you think the Brexiteers or the public will realise that Brexit was a problem? And I say two words: petrol, toilet paper. But toilet paper is maybe 2 words, so that's 3 words. But toilet paper and petrol, when those two run out, when there are shortages of both of those, then people will sit up and listen. People will sit up and pay attention. Because at the moment, we've seen Boris Johnson be responsible for the deaths of over 130,000 people. He's doing his best. Brexit, an absolute disaster. Shortages of food, water, clean water. We've seen the damage being inflicted on a daily basis of Brexit, and most people, he promised he'd get it done, or he's doing his best, and that's good enough for them. But we've seen recently, last year, when there was a shortage of toilet paper, people got very, very worried. Now add to that petrol, and people would be, I think, rebelling. The British people don't rebel, they grumble. And that's not a criticism of the British people. Many other countries do the same. But the British people have confirmed that to me and said, look, we don't protest, we complain. And I think if petrol ran out, you had to queue for petrol, and fights broke out at the petrol station, a lot of people would start to complain a bit more than usual. And if toilet paper ran out for some reason, or there was a massive shortage, I think the public would ask for Boris Johnson's head. But, bar that, everything is, he's doing his best. Petrol and toilet paper preemptive strike against Molotov cocktails. Very, very well spotted there, Yoni. If the Brits run out of petrol, they can all suck diesel. You're sucking diesel now. Will it be pop-up or colouring in book? My wife went to 5 petrol stations today. The first 4 had no petrol. Oh my goodness. My van is going electric soon. Good choice. I know range is still a bit of a problem, but if you're doing short deliveries, it's not that big of a problem. I got kebab in 1 minute, but line in McDonald's was mile long. Jen got Boris's head. No. Who wants Boris's head exactly? Anyway, let's go on. No, I want to cover this story first, and then I'll come back to the other one after. Staying with the energy crisis.
Keeping the lights on, but at what cost? Dozens of small energy companies have popped up in the past few years, encouraged as competition to the big six. But soaring gas prices have already forced 7 out of business since the start of the year and left dozens of others, like Bulb, on the brink. It was only 2 months ago that they were visited by the Prime Minister. Now the firm is seeking a bailout to survive, but the business secretary said no taxpayer cash would be forthcoming.
The government will not be bailing out failed companies. There will be no rewards for failure or mismanagement.
What? There'll be no rewards for failure or mismanagement. From a Brexiteer government. There'll be no reward for failure or mismanagement. Wow.
The taxpayer should not be expected to prop up companies which have poor business models.
Like Serco? How much money did Serco receive from the government? How much did they receive from the taxpayer?
Many in the industry agree with him that companies who offered cheap deals to customers without planning for future price rises shouldn't now be saved.
Do I think those energy businesses should be bailed out? No, I don't. I think that, if you're running a risky, unsustainable energy business, then you frankly had it coming.
A number of factors have caused the spike in gas prices. A particularly cold winter, reduced supply from Russia, and increased demand from Asia. The consequences could reach far beyond higher energy prices, with the farming industry warning that shortages of meat supplies could now follow. Some analysts have even predicted scenes reminiscent of the 3-day week, something the government was keen to dismiss.
There is absolutely no question, Mr. Speaker, of the lights going out or people being unable to heat their homes. There'll be no...
Well, if a Tory promises this, then it must be a guarantee.
No 3-day working weeks or a throwback to the 1970s.
The Prime Minister on the global stage today during a visit to the US, asked to address the global energy crisis, came up with a muddled metaphor about the world recovering from COVID.
What you're basically seeing is it's like when there's been a serious frost in your house and all the pipes are frozen. Then the big thaw comes, and that's when you have the problems and the leaks. You're seeing.
So it's just a thought. And how does Brexit come into this? Brexit is like not calling the plumber. Yeah, the rooms are flooded. Should we call the plumber? No. It'll sort itself out.
Problems in the supply chains. Very strong demand for gas around the world is producing this phenomenon. But we're going to fix it.
But can he fix political problems brewing back home?
Families are facing a triple whammy: rising energy prices, national insurance rises, and at the end of this month, the £1,000 cut in universal credit.
Could Ed Miliband take over as Labour leader? Could Keir Starmer say, look, I'm going to take an extended vacation and we're going to have Ed Miliband in charge instead? Because he's doing a much better job.
If he really wants to tackle fuel poverty, isn't it time, even at this late stage, to cancel this terrible decision on universal credit?
No one doubts that there remain challenges around poverty, around child poverty, around those who are in destitution. But is a £20 uplift across the board the answer to that problem? We need more targeted help for those who are in destitution, but also more targeted help for those on the verge of getting into work.
We need targeted... Why are you taking away a support? Yes, you need a targeted approach, but removing a support and then saying, okay, we're going to give back a support to someone else. We're going to. We're not doing it immediately. Universal credit isn't across the board, fool. Yes. There are people who are in universal credit who are going to be affected by this. There are people who aren't in universal credit who are going to be affected by this. It's not just a small section of society that are going to be impacted. A huge section of society will be. UBI, UBI. Yes, UBI would, once again, here is another case of where UBI would fix the problem. There's an increase in energy prices. Is the UBI sufficient to cover it? Maybe not. Let's increase the UBI. Then everyone's covered. Then there's no problem. Then we don't have to worry about, okay, do we give money to this section of society or do we give it to this other section? No, we just cover. There's this massive spike in prices. We increase the UBI by a few dollars or a few pounds or a few euros. That will more than enough cover the cost. Do we protect people who are not deeply impacted by it? Yes. But that's the price we pay to protect everyone. In the same way as we have a universal healthcare system. Some people don't get sick, but they still pay into the system. Some people may never use the hospital, but they still pay into the system. A UBI would work in the same way.
But taxpayer cash could still be used to prop up the energy market, with plans for subsidies still being discussed.
So the government decision is not to give money to people. It's actually to take money from people and instead give it to businesses. Now, my UBI isn't enough. My neighbour is eating lobster. Go on, Labour leaders can't step in and start talking to the European Commission. Unfortunately, they can talk, but they have no power. They have no influence. British Gas should never have been privatised. It was another free competition daydream. There are two problems with the privatisation. First, yes, you're right. It shouldn't have been privatised. And the second is, if the UK had stayed within the European Union, it would have been protected by a lot of, not completely protected, but it would have been protected somewhat by these price hikes from outside. You sound so socialistic. See Phil's video earlier? I didn't see Phil's video earlier. I'll check it out later on.
So despite the government's insistence that customers will be protected, it could still be the public that picks up the bill.
Well, the crisis that is cutting down many gas suppliers has raised questions about how vulnerable the energy market in this country has become to global shocks. Our economics correspondent, Helia Ebrahimi, is in the newsroom. So what are the lessons so far for how we run the energy market?
Well, we have this perfect storm of problems which have added up to an acute energy crisis. Tonight, one energy boss told me that the regulator was culpable for the current mess. Along with the government, they were so desperate to give the impression of more competition to challenge the big six.
Stop wobbling that table. I'm distracted by her wobbling the table. Sorry.
Perfect storm of problems which have added up to an acute energy crisis. Tonight, one energy boss told me that the regulator was culpable for the current mess. Along with the government, they were so desperate to give the impression of more competition to challenge the big six that the bar for new entrants was too low, like allowing a bank to take deposits without checking if they had the right capital requirements in place. But there are wider problems, Krish, with the energy market in this country. Ministers have been very good about vocalising their net zero strategy, but they haven't invested in the messy bit of how we get there, or energy security, and that's left this country exposed to global shocks. Gas is still the single biggest contributor to energy, despite the fact that domestic production has fallen. And the big issue here is that green energy is still intermittent. And over the summer, the wind has been unusually still. Now, that would be fine if we had large strategic gas reserves to fall back on, but we don't. In 2017, a storage facility was closed and the government chose not to rebuild.
And there we have it. So it was a government decision not to maintain the strategic gas reserves. So when gas decreased in quantity, they could have tapped into the reserve, and then you wouldn't be seeing these problems. There's another case of ignoring the problem maybe we're going to hear in a moment the reason, But it's similar to Exercise Cygnus, where there was a test run for PPE. Do we have sufficient PPE if there's a pandemic? This was back in 2018, I think it was. The government at the time said, we're not even going to bother replacing PPE. We're not going to replace equipment that's necessary for dealing with the pandemic. It's too expensive. And then what happened? A pandemic arrived and the government were not prepared. In the same way, this reserve is the government's responsibility to be maintained, and they let it run dry.
Deciding to leave it to the market. Well,
see, instead of actually, they're turning around and saying we're not going to compensate companies that have been run badly, and they are the ones responsible for the reserve running dry.
Well, guess what? Private companies, each competing for profits, didn't bother either. Now, capacity for storage is less than 2% of annual demand. The UK can hold just 9 terawatt hours, compared to 113 in France, 148 in Germany, and 166 in Italy.
Right, but this isn't just about the market, is it? There is international energy politics at play as well.
Well, half of our gas supply comes from the North Sea, with another third coming directly from Norway. But the remainder provided basically by Qatar and Russia is more problematic. Over the summer, Russia held back gas supplies to Europe, with critics saying the manoeuvre was intended to force Europe's hand in finalising the controversial gas pipeline that links Russia to Germany. But it's also the pandemic which has caused huge economic upheaval, with the Asian recovery in recent months guzzling up gas demand and pushing prices up higher, which has shot up from under 40p last year to over 184p today. That's almost a 5-fold increase, and it's that dramatic increase that's proven fatal for so many business models for UK energy suppliers.
That's terrible. They're running a pilot. Only issue is they need gas to light it. Did the Tories also burn the oil reserve? Pretty much. Let me read some more of your comments. The gas reserves are for situations like this. Exactly, that's what they're for. During a crisis, there's a limited supply, then that's what we have these reserves for. But the reserves were not protected.
Today, I will set out the government's approach to manage the impact of high global gas prices affecting the UK and countries across Europe. To begin, I want to make 2 points extremely clear. Firstly, Mr. Speaker, I must stress that protecting consumers is our primary focus.
So what he's doing is he's handing money to private companies and not giving it to consumers, or to the public.
And will shape our entire approach to this important issue. Secondly, I also want to reassure the House that while the UK, like other countries in Europe, has been affected by global prices, Britain benefits from having a diverse range of gas supply sources. We have sufficient capacity, and more than sufficient capacity, to meet demand, and we do not expect supply emergencies to occur this winter. There is absolutely.
Then what are we talking about the reserve? Why is the reserve a problem? If the reserve was at 2%, could deal with 2% of energy requirements, then why are you saying that there won't be a problem in the winter?
Absolutely no question, Mr. Speaker, of the lights going out or people being unable to heat their homes. There'll be no 3-day working weeks or a throwback to the 1970s. Such thinking, Mr. Speaker, is alarmist, unhelpful, and completely misguided.
Like Project Fear. Remember back in 2016, they said there would be no food shortages. That's alarmist. It's Project Fear. But there are shortages now. Yes, it seems that CO2 will be produced, but that's not going to deal with energy prices. So the way to deal with this is to help the public out, provide funding to in order to support the public, to make sure that they have sufficient funds to deal with this. Of course, removing the universal credit uplift is a big mistake. You're putting people who are already in trouble, throwing them out of the frying pan and into the fire. This must be stopped first of all, and then provide extra financial support to people who are on who are on the the thin end of the wedge here, who are going to really face these problems firsthand. None of the people in the House of Commons are going to suffer the consequences of this, so they don't understand what it's like. I really wish there was somebody who would speak on behalf of the poor and the working class in government, but there's no one. No one cares about them. So it's going to be very difficult to convince Boris Johnson's government to actually act on their behalf. I'm making candles out of my wax. Like Father Jack. That's horrible. I swear they say all the sorts of cobblers things we have all forgotten. It'll be next week. It'll be like the 1970s. Tories are getting their comeuppance. Hope this burns them to the ground. I don't know. I hope, Peter, but I don't see this really happening because the public still think Boris is doing his best. I see no food and gas shortages. Oh wait, I live in France. Europe will have to send aid to the UK. Wouldn't it be funny if I'm not saying funny that aid would be sent, but if aid were sent, wouldn't it be funny if there was a big European flag stuck on the side of it, and Brexiteers had to go and pick it up, and he had to be photographed with a food a food package. In order to get it, you had to be photographed with it, and it shared on social media with a big European flag, Nigel Farage or something. That would be wonderful. But that's not going to happen. But I don't want anyone to suffer. I'm an advocate for universal basic income. I want everyone to be lifted out of this, everyone protected. The wrong people are in charge. The people who are in charge are basically sociopaths. They have no understanding they have no empathy. They don't care about the public. They care about their donors, and they continue to work for their donors. Anyway, moving on, before we're getting towards the end of the stream for tonight, I just want to share this story with you. So it says here, France rallies EU as trust in US, UK and Australia wanes. So the French European Affairs Minister Clément Blouin, I know I'm mispronouncing that, said he would raise the trade pact and security implications of the deal known as AUKUS at a meeting with his counterparts in Brussels, and that France would ensure that it was discussed at European summits and ministerial meetings next month. So if this is, of course, related to these new submarines that are being provided to Australia, so they're strategic because Australia at the moment has conventional submarines it wants to upgrade, and these are being provided by, well, it seems that the French had an agreement with Australia to build these, and then this has changed, and the French government are not too happy about this, and they're attempting to use their sway within the European Union to convince the Europeans to in a sense punish Britain Australia and the United States over this. George, thanks so much for that super chat. Our biggest problem is the biased news media. It is. You know, when I heard about GB News and they said we're going to provide unbiased, okay, that would be a breath of fresh air. But of course, it was biased news. It was pro-Brexit, pro-Tory, pro-government, basically. Until, you know, generally pro-Tory anyway. But the problem is with the media pour poison into the ears of the public. Okay, France was to provide... okay, so... we all live in a third submarine. Yes, because it was the powered submarines, not the armed submarines. What the F do Australians need with submarines? They've got surfboards. Oh my god. What will the government do if there's no drivers to drive the snow gritters during the winter and that no one can get to work or to the shops? For example, in the past, it's in the post. I think maybe the army will be brought out once again. A case of, I think there will be, because of the gritters, it's something that's temporary. It's so I don't see that really being a problem. It could potentially be a problem, yes, but I think I don't see it really as being a problem, because these are drivers are only they're probably heavy goods vehicle drivers that are hired, you know, for a very limited contract. Just come out at this time of the year and that's it. You know, 5 o'clock in the morning for a couple of hours, and that's it. Every day for a month or 2 months. So I don't see that really being a big problem, but potentially yes, it could be a problem. The Australians are lying. The army will come in if it happens. Yes, it's never the army, it's our boys. Good night all. Kendra, good night. Have a great evening. So guys, yeah, look, this is a story that's going to go on, and I promise I will cover it maybe in a video or in a bit more detail next time. So unfortunately we come to the end of the stream tonight. I want to say thanks to everyone who came on tonight. Remember to smash that like button. Thanks to everyone for all of your comments. Thanks so much for those. Thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job moderating as always, and thanks to everyone who sent a super chat. Those are greatly appreciated. Remember also to check out Ginger Island's GoFundMe to help the guys over there. They're stuck together for 6 weeks, remember. I'm sure they get on really well, but they're doing a wonderful job and they need some support. Phil, yes, I had to say, I should have said it before. Phil from A Different Bias has agreed to do a live stream with me on Friday at 8 o'clock British Summer Time. So same time as tonight. We're going to answer questions about Brexit, about British politics, everything about that, and we're going to have some questions prepared. But you're welcome, of course, to comment on the stream during the stream, and we'll try and answer as many questions as possible. Not sure how long Phil can stay on, but we'll try and cover as much as we can. So I hope you can tune in on Friday, 8 p.m. British Summer Time, for a live stream with Phil from A Different Bias. Phil is always it's always great fun. It's great to have Phil on. It's been a while. I think it was before Christmas we did a live stream. So if you can, I'm out Friday. Oh, if you can't see it, don't worry. It will be recorded. It will be up on my channel, so you'll be able to see it after. So, but I do hope if you can even pop in for a little bit. So guys, before we finish, of course, we have our one for the road. Thanks to everyone who came on tonight. I wanted to talk about Labour, but I didn't get a chance, so I will maybe talk about it sometime soon. Let me see about bringing this up.
You might know him from his self-produced, self-starring surprise hit, Brexit! 3 exclamation marks.
Oi, Brussels! We've come for our sovereignty and we're not leaving without it.
But eyebrows were raised this week when Colin Clout was appointed as new Director of British Values at the BBC. He joins us now. Mr. Clout.
What?
Can you tell us what your new job will involve?
Well, basically, right, I'm here to ensure that everything that we make is as authentically British as fish and chips or winning the war.
Can you give me an example?
Well, all this digital bollocks, right? I want us to get back to good old-fashioned British techniques. So from now on, everything will be shot on film, 35mm. I mean, at 1.377 inches.
Won't that be expensive?
Not really, because we'll be paying people in fresh vegetables.
How are you getting those?
Blue Peter Garden.
Right. How will the content change?
Well, we'll mostly just be bunging the Great British in front of a few programme titles. So it's not just the Great British Bake Off, it's the Great British EastEnders, the Great British Line of Duty, the Great British Planet Earth.
The Great British Planet Earth?
Yeah, like of all them animals and breathtaking landscapes in Africa. Classic British stuff.
Okay.
And of course, the Great British News.
The Great British News?
Yeah, an hour a day of explaining how Britain is better than all the other countries.
But you'll still be critical where necessary.
Of course, we'll definitely have a go at the French.
You've said that diversity is very important to you.
Oh, yeah, totally. I want people from all over Britain to be represented on our screens. From Essex to Surrey to Berkshire to Hampshire to the north of England.
And Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland?
Yeah, why not? The main thing is it's not just people from the London metropolitan elite.
But you are from London yourself, aren't you?
Well, yeah, but...
And you did in fact attend a public school and a prestigious university.
Yeah, but...
And you worked for a number of years in the media, including with several members of this government.
Right, what is this?
I'm just pointing out that maybe you're not as authentic as you pretend to be.
Right, you better cut that bit out or I'll call my daddy's lawyers and you'll be fired.
This is live?
Oh.
Whoops. Very, very good. So, once again, thanks for coming on tonight, guys. Thanks to everyone who sent a super chat. Thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job. And remember to check in on Friday with Phil. We should have a lot of fun. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Good night, guys. And remember, post-stream chat after the stream for those who are on Discord and Patreon. Take care. Good night.